All right, so I'm not quite sure how all this works. We're having a hard time getting to have this little chat, but I'm hoping this is going to work somehow. So I'm waiting for Ava. Okay, good. So she's joined. So I'm hoping that, Ava, that you'll, let's see, make a request so that we can chat. Oh, okay. Fingers crossed. Maybe it's backwards day today. Oh,
Hi.
that worked.
I don't understand it.
Neither do I. But we'll just go with it, right?
Yes, we're happy that we found each other and it's fine. Okay, great. Oh, fantastic. So I'm your guest now.
Well, I don't know. I didn't prepare any questions. Well, actually, I do have questions for you, but
No, it's no problem. And we stick to the plan.
all
So
right, we can do that.
yes, welcome, Erica. It's so nice to have you in this online talk. Please present yourself and also Piano Music She Wrote, your big project.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Erica Seitz, and I live here in the United States in Roanoke, Virginia. So we're far away from the East Coast. We're in a very kind of rural area, but we just love it here. It's beautiful. And let's see what else. And I am the co-founder of Piano Music She Wrote, which I co-founded with my colleague up in Canada, the dear Sandra Mogensen. Um, and we met on Twitter and I don't know, I think we might talk about this more in detail a little bit later, but we,
Yes, please.
but we put together a project back in 2020 to find a way to make piano music composed by women through the centuries more accessible and discoverable by teachers, students, amateurs, and professionals alike. So that's kind of how my journey with women composers started. So anyway, I'll
Uh,
just start with that.
yeah, that's fantastic. So several questions. And the first one, how did you get this idea to really start this project? So was it just in your mind or
It was
tell us?
because it was when we met in person for the very first time.
Oh, you saw each other?
We did. So
Wow.
Sandra had produced her first CD in a set, I think that's going to be of six, and of just music written by women. This was in 2020 in about January. And I work at a university about an hour away from where I live. And I knew that they would be open to having her come and do a recital there. So she was already going to Texas to go and present the same program there to kind of promote the release of her new awesome CD, which you should all look up. And of course, that was gave us the opportunity to finally meet in person. So we had only corresponded via Twitter. And so she took me up on the offer. And as always happens when I meet Twitter friends, it was
Hmm.
just clicked immediately. I don't know if you've met anybody in person.
Heike Mattisen,
Okay.
Kitara. Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just kind of a magical thing. I think some people were dubious of it at first. Why would you have somebody in your home that you've never met in person? But there's something about Twitter that I think nurtures really good relationships.
It's like you're meeting a friend, actually.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So we were talking one day, I think it was probably our first day together. And at that point, I had not done a lot of experimenting with finding music by women. So we talked about that. Why is it that we hadn't learned it growing up very much, except for me? I don't think I even knew Clara Schumann's music. I had played some music by contemporary women
Hmm.
composers that wrote specifically for pedagogical purposes. Um,
Aha.
but that was all.
Hmm.
So anyway, so we said, well, why is it so hard? And I asked her, I said, well, how did you find the music for your
Hmm.
CD? And she said she got it all from imslp.org, which of course is such a great depository of PDFs that anyone can download for free. And so we said, okay, well, that there is a real advantage and a gift in that database. So, and we felt like it was, difficult because by 2020, there were fewer and fewer sheet music stores where you could go and flip through music and open it up. And like, both she and I could open up the music and know whether or not we would probably like it or if it was doable by us. That was how I grew up picking music, was to go to a sheet music store, but that's no longer possible. So right now you go to Amazon or, Sheet Music Plus or these places, but you might only get to see 1 or 2 pages worth of a score, if even that. So we said that we think was prohibitive of encouraging people to explore. Because what do? So you pay all this money to get music that you don't know if you'll like or not. And especially back then.
And if it's not playable, it's really, it's not so good.
No, it's not. And then I think people would
It's frustrating.
Yeah. And teachers are not, it's just, so we really thought that was probably one of the biggest obstacles. So we said, okay, but we have IMSLP. And then we said, but we couldn't find an easy way to sort things. So you can filter it. You can pull up a list of all the women composers represented. But then you can't, at least not that we've discovered, we couldn't find a way to then filter further, to filter piano music written by women composers. And we said, again, that's an obstacle. If you have somebody that's short on time, energy, all of that, are they going to take the time to do that? No. So we agreed between the two of us, well, why don't we do it? Do it. And fortunately, this was right before the pandemic. And so
before. Okay.
Like a month before everything shut down. So as soon as everything shut down, we called each other and said, I don't think we have any excuse now. We don't know what's going to happen. Can't go to work. Let this be our work for the next period of however long it would take. So we did that. So she started at A. I started at Z.
Okay.
And we worked in opposite directions until we met each other in the middle.
Okay. You started with the letters.
Yep.
What was the first piece? Do you remember?
Yes. And actually, it's one of my favorites. It's by Sofia Zaibina. I don't know how to say it. Sandra will tell you I'm terrible at pronouncing names, but it was, or it might have been Zalit, Paula Zalit. I don't know. There's 2 really good ones at the end of the list. So we created a spreadsheet on Google Sheets. And from the beginning, we started filling out that spreadsheet and took note of birth, of their dates, their country of origin, links to the score and IMSLP. And that's how it started. So, yeah.
Oh, wow. And in the beginning, how many videos did you do? How did you schedule it?
Oh gosh, let's see. So we first did the whole database, I believe. I don't think we recorded any videos till we had gone through the entire database on
Okay. How long did this take, this process?
6 months. I want to say probably around 6 months. And then at that point, we kind of in the middle of working on this, we decided, or we may have discussed it informally when we had our first discussion when we were face to face with one another. But we also said one of the other barriers is that there are no recordings of these pieces.
Yes.
And, so a lot of people just listen in order to fall in love with something.
I also do. I'm curious how it's sounding, and
So we said, okay, well, maybe that should be a part of our project, is we can go through and take note of the ones we think might interest us in recording. And then we'll start a YouTube channel as well. So we started that YouTube channel, I think in August, after we had done the spreadsheet. And then we started by each posting 1 video every single week. So 2 videos every week. And we did that for 2 years. And then now we've kind of evolved a little bit And we're changing a little bit how we do it, but yeah,
You're also having partners now,
yeah,
which allows you to make more music, and it's not so stressful, I guess,
it's
because
not,
one video
oh,
every week, that's tough.
it is, it is. It was very tiring. And we also were starting to feel like not as many pieces are added every month as we would like to see. So we're
Hmm.
running out of pieces that we really feel drawn to ourselves
Hmm.
personally.
Hmm.
Um, so, I mean, there's a lot of stuff on there that hasn't been recorded, but we wanted to really curate it. So it's stuff that we feel really great about. Um, but that's another reason that our partners are so wonderful because everyone has different taste.
Yes.
Everyone is drawn to a certain type of music, certain type of composer, or a certain nationality.
Hmm.
And so what we're finding is that our partners are picking pieces that we didn't initially really necessarily perk up and go, oh, we want to do that. So it's been
So
really,
taste actually is a big thing.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow, that's great. Do you remember how much time did you have for each video when you take everything? So the research time, the practice time, and the recording time.
I think it really varies because of we have different difficulty levels of piece that we record. I think I can speak for Sandra. I've talked with her enough to know that both of us tend to actually not practice the pieces very much beforehand.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, if it's a really difficult piece, yes, but for
Hmm.
us, it makes the recording process all the more harder because
Hmm.
then you have higher expectations. I mean, we're both very good sight readers. I
Hmm.
don't know that we could have done this if we weren't. And so a lot of times I will intentionally choose only to look over it and do maybe a few markings. But then most of my learning happens while I'm recording. So,
Aha.
I will usually
Do you
set,
also listen to the pieces in between?
in between the
Yeah. Do you do
recordings.
a recording session, then listen, and then continue the recording, or
That's
how
really
is it?
interesting because I've changed my process as I've
Uh-huh.
gone on with this. At first, I did not because I was worried that I would get too into my head and
Hmm.
get more nervous that way. But I would say for the past year and a half, I listen back because what I've noticed is that my sense of tempo is so different when I'm
Hmm.
performing it than when I listen back. And so I will often record it at a more conservative tempo, listen back, and then I'll usually say, that is just not working. So I'll change.
Uh-huh.
But because I have that earlier take that I could use, I feel braver. And then I try it a little faster. And usually the faster one works better.
I'm still fascinated because for me, with this recording process, it's still weird because somehow you have this feeling of, oh, this wasn't good at all. And then you listen to it and you think, okay, what's your problem? It's fine.
Right.
And on the other side, sometimes you have really recordings where you think, wow, this is fantastic, fabulous. And then you listen to it and say, oh, no, 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 no. I will never, ever upload this. Do you also have this?
Absolutely. And I think part of the problem with our project is that I get my heart set on certain pieces that I want represented. So I think I've only actually probably walked away from a piece that I've wanted to record one or two times. Um,
Aha.
but other than that, I'm pretty stubborn. I've had a couple where I've had to do it on a different day and come back to it. Um, but I don't like to do that because, again, I get inside my head and I doubt and it's hard.
Then it's over.
Exactly.
Okay, we have some comments here. So we have Modern Music Dan, partner pianist here. Who is
Hi,
this?
Dan.
Who is this?
This is Dan Harding, who is our partner from
Ah,
the UK.
okay.
Yeah.
That's his account name. Oh, welcome. That's great.
And Dan set himself apart by on our recent Halloween video of one of Clara's pieces. that was about a
Uh-huh.
witch's Sabbath or witch's dance.
Oh yeah, it's
He
Opus
was the one who
5,
wore that
right?
hat.
Yes. I saw this. It's great. And he wrote something, looking forward to exploring more of the Malo publications, music by women, featured in Brazilian newspaper around
Oh.
the turn of 20th century.
So I think that might have been a typo. It might have been IMSLP,
Yes.
but I don't know.
Ah, okay.
No, it is Omalo. I know what he's talking about. Yeah, there's
Uh-huh.
publications in Brazil that regularly printed music written by women. So
Oh, really?
yeah, and
That's
they're on
great.
IMSLP. Somebody has uploaded like every single publication.
In the
So
turn of the 20th century, there
mhm.
was something like that? That's great.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow, that's fabulous. I like it.
yeah.
Um, so yes, you played a lot of works by female composers now, and I'm a big fan of technique. So I'm very eager to know, did your technique change? Did you remark something or?
You know, so I'm going to confess something, Eva. So
Yeah, do it.
I admire you because you're doing your etude project. And here's my confession is that I'm terrible at warming up. I'm terrible
Really?
at doing technical exercises. I just like they scare me. So
You're serious? But you're
yeah,
such a great pianist. If I could play like you,
like
oh wow.
I do not do scales. I don't do arpeggios. I mean, I can, but I think because I do so much rehearsing with people and learning
Uh-huh.
music, I just don't have time. So yeah, I just don't
And
do
I think your technical studies are in the pieces.
absolutely. And
Yes.
in the way I practice, I turn technically difficult passages in my rep. I turn them
Uh-huh.
into etudes of my own, like very
Hmm.
short ones.
Yes.
So that's how I do it. So you would know better than I would, the effect of some of those etudes. And
Yeah, but I'm really interested to know if so something I experienced, which is very unique. It was especially with the Farang etudes, but also with Montgeroux. I got this feeling that the music is written for my hands.
okay, so yeah,
It's so natural for the hands, and I had this feeling that it's changing my technique without me wanting it to.
I can definitely respond to that and say that I completely agree. And Sandra and I have talked about this, that's
Uh-huh.
been one of the unexpected joys of working on music by women composers. There are some exceptions. Clara Schumann had gigantic hands, and,
Yes.
and her music I can't play as well as I would like to.
What is the easiest piece by Clara Schumann in your eyes?
There's a nocturne,
Uh-huh.
a nocturnal, which is just gorgeous. That does fit well in my hands. I think Sam
Okay.
recorded it. I was sort of jealous because I wanted to record it.
Because I was
But
really wondering if someone wants to play Clara Schumann, I want to, but all the pieces that I find are so difficult. So the easiest one I found was Opus 5, number, I don't know, 3 or something.
is it
But it's still horribly difficult in the technical way.
There's a set too that I did record for piano music she wrote, and I'm not going to pronounce it because, again, I'm terrible at it. But there's a set.
Mhm.
So if you look me up and look for Clara Schumann,
Okay.
but those four pieces are really good and beautiful, beautiful. And the Nocturne.
And
Uh,
not so hard. Or,
Not so hard. Mm-mm.
okay.
So I would recommend those. There's a slow one in the set of four that is just
Uh-huh.
gorgeous.
Uh-huh.
Fanny Hensel's music I also find a little bit challenging. I think she
A
might,
little bit. It's.
but her Pastorella, I just recorded. I'm about to record her Nocturne
Uh-huh.
that is beautiful. It's tricky, but a lot of other composers, Mel Boni, Mel Boni
Yes.
and Chrétien, and
Yes.
there's a lot of French composers actually that I think they wrote very well pedagogically and
Mm-hmm.
they fit well in smaller hands. So,
Yes.
um, yeah.
I was wondering if this maybe is a problem that women composers are not so often played, that the repertoire is so difficult and that many people don't know the easy pieces. What do you think? Is it like that?
It could be. I mean, I think it also goes back just to the fact that I think teachers themselves are not as familiar, at least here in the
Hmm.
United States. A lot of piano teachers, when they're teaching beginners and intermediate students, they use method books. And in
Hmm.
those method books, you will have these contemporary women composers that write specifically for these method books. But at least I think it's changing, fortunately, but there haven't been as many historical pieces by women that have been included in those books. And so I think that it's simply because of that
Hmm.
and accessibility to scores and knowing who to look up and lack of
Hmm.
recordings that I think, yeah, students
Is
just
this
don't.
also the reason why you edited the book?
That was
Um,
actually all Sandra's doing, but yeah, she felt very passionate that she
mhm.
wanted to put out graded books with the music that we've discovered.
Do
So
people buy it, or do you get some feedback?
she's in charge of that whole project, so she would be the
Ah,
one to ask about that. Yeah,
okay. I actually want to invite her too, so
you
this will
should.
definitely be a question.
You should. Yes.
Okay. But I interrupted you, or we came, we left the path because actually I wanted to know about your feeling while playing female composers in your hands, and you started that you talked about this with Sandra.
Yeah, I mean, it was sort of a breath of fresh air because I have such small hands that there's a lot of music that is in the traditional canon
Mhm.
in the piano land that I don't feel like I should even try to play. Music by Liszt, a lot of
Yeah.
Brahms, Rachmaninoff. I'll play
Hmm.
some when I can, but they are just out of my literal reach, and I don't feel it's healthy for my body. So when I started discovering and exploring all this music, I realized how much more music is accessible to me. And I wondered if it is because it's written by women.
Hmm.
Um, and they tend to also have a different anatomy and that type of thing. So I find it to be a breath of fresh air because I think it's hard for one who is trying to be a professional musician to not feel a little bit like you have a disadvantage or maybe you're
Hmm.
not quite good enough and it's simply because you have small hands. It's ridiculous, but I think that thought
Yes.
goes through our heads and that's a shame. Shouldn't be.
Hmm.
So,
I just came to my mind. I once saw a video somewhere on social media where a pianist visits someone who has a piano with smaller keys. Do you know about this video?
I
And she
have,
was so moved, she was crying.
yeah. Yeah, I thought about that. When I saw that, I had mixed feelings because what
Uh-huh.
went through my head is that would be lovely. I mean, I think that would be very exciting to try. But then what's the reality of how,
Mm.
if you practice on a piano like that, but then go and have to perform anywhere else, does that make it harder to then perform on a standard piano? I don't know. Um,
Yeah.
it's different. Like I used to be a cellist, and when I went to go get a full-size cello finally, there was an option to get what's called a ladies cello, which is a
Hmm.
little bit smaller proportioned than a full-size cello.
Hmm.
And that's different, of course, because you travel
Yes.
with your instrument.
Yes, you can have it with you. I
But
mean, someone like Maria Szymanowska, she was traveling with her instrument, actually. So when
yeah,
you're really, really famous, of course, it's possible.
yeah, and I don't think that I would be quite in that position. So I suppose
But
if that were my reality, yes, I think
okay,
that.
but let's try out this thinking. If you were famous, would you do it,
Oh
or
gosh.
wouldn't you? Hard to say.
I think it's hard to say because I think one of my big things that I talk about a lot is trying to be a good model in that I'm not worried about being perfect,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and dealing with what we're given. And so if that's small hands, then I think it's okay to be okay with having a different
Yes.
rep that you offer and perform. Because I don't like to get into that feeling. I don't want any other young musician to, I don't know, to not understand that I'm at an advantage because I have a lot of money or, you know, this
Mm-hmm.
ability to travel with my own piano. I don't, it makes me feel
Yes.
weird.
That's wonderful. I love this. I think it's authentical, and I don't think it's bad that you're not perfect. So I completely agree with you, and I think it's yeah, encouraging people actually. This is also with my Etudes project quite the same. I mean, you also uploaded a lot of videos, and you know this feeling when you upload something and you actually think, okay, it's not the best I could do, I think, but that's how I play. So I'm not a fantastic pianist, but I do my very best for the moment, and that's it. I hope people will like it, and they actually do.
Absolutely.
This is such a joy and a present also that people like you in spite of your imperfection.
And I don't know if you've discovered the same thing through doing that, Eva, to be willing to put yourself out there like that. But I find that it has helped me feel more confident about what I have to offer the musical world.
Yeah, it gave me a lot of peace and also a lot of freedom somehow.
Absolutely. I wouldn't change it for the world now.
Yes.
And when Sandra and I were talking about starting the YouTube channel, we were very adamant that we would be okay with putting up videos that we knew
Hmm.
weren't note perfect a lot of
Yes.
the time. Because we felt that our audience that we were aiming to be attractive to were amateurs and students and teachers. So again, we just
But
wanted to,
also, I mean, also professionals watch it, and I think it's also good for them, especially in this world where we live in with CDs, which are artificial products. And I think this is really nice to put on videos without any cuts. That's
absolutely,
great because
absolutely.
that's live and that's real. And I love it. I really love it.
Yes. Yes. I talk a lot too about, I don't know if you've heard of the term musicking, but
No.
musicking is a verb that was coined by a very famous ethnomusicologist and musicologist in the United States. I think his name was Christopher Small.
Hmm.
And kind of the point that he was trying to drive home when he was alive was the role that music plays in society and
Hmm.
how important it is to be doing music at all different levels.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, and so that's something that I've always, since I heard that term, I've adopted it as something that's very important to me.
Hmm.
Um, that, you know, even as a professional pianist, I crave making music with people of all levels
Hmm.
because there's an intimacy and a way to get to know people that you can only have happen when you're playing music with them. So,
Yes.
yeah.
So true. Okay, I will keep this term. It's really good. Um, so yes, do you have some piano pieces on your bucket list?
I was trying to think about that. I mean, I have a list that's going and there's one piece I keep avoiding because it's a sonata and so it's going to take me some genuine
Mhm.
investment to learn. But it's a sonata and I'm looking at my list because I knew I was going to forget the name. Oh, Liebmann. Liebmann? Helene Liebmann.
German or from Austria? Don't
I
know.
don't remember, to tell you
Oh,
the truth,
okay.
but it's been
Okay.
on my list forever. And every time I go to my music pile, I'm like, maybe now I should do it, but I haven't.
Mhm.
It looks a very intriguing sonata. And there aren't a lot of full-blown sonatas that we have found on
Mhm.
IMSLP by women. So
Okay.
I'm determined.
Yeah, but one fine day. So if ever you will upload it, we will all know that this is finally a dream that came true.
Exactly. So now that I've said this too, maybe it will give me a little bit more of an incentive to finish it. And there's a piece by Clara Schumann too, but I don't know if it's on IMSLP. So I have to figure that out. But I really want to learn it. So
Oh, great.
yeah. So we'll see.
But it's so the this is well chamber music for piano. So no piano concerto or something like that.
No, because I just don't, I wouldn't want to invest it in the time to do a concerto when I probably would never perform it with anybody.
Oh, okay.
I'm just not in that place in my life, or,
But when you have Sandra, actually it would be possible that one of you plays the orchestra part and the other plays the solo piano, and you can even play two piano concerts in one concert.
Well,
No,
now
I gave you
that is a brilliant
I gave
idea.
you some ideas.
I love it. Okay, well, now we have another idea that I'll have to talk
Yeah,
about.
it would be great. And then you can go on tour. Piano music she writes, piano music she wrote on tour with two piano concertos. I think
We
this would
would
be amazing.
love that. We've talked about doing a tour, but, someday.
So keep it in your mind. The fan base will have a close look at it.
Sounds good.
So yeah, we talked about your sight reading, and I think it's really I like this topic of sight reading because it's so some people like sight reading and some people hate it. And I mean, you're doing a project which is called Sightseeing Maverick.
Yeah, it's
Tell us
sight.
more about it, please.
Sure. So this was another pandemic project like your
Oh,
Coco. So I just missed performing and I'm a good sight reader and because of piano music she wrote, I was learning how much music was there that is undiscovered. So I decided to start live streaming a show every Sunday where I sight read for an hour, music that there are scores on IMSLP. So I don't have a lot of viewers that regularly watch, but it's been so much fun. I've discovered so many composers I never knew, pieces that I've since put on programs and performed that nobody's heard before. Um, and also, I've grown in my sight reading ability. I knew I was a pretty good sight reader, but I have one viewer that is also my mysterious mentor who regularly gives me feedback and on my show, my sight reading show. And at first, I was very intimidated by that. And I got kind of upset and I said, why are you criticizing my sight reading? I'm sight reading. Don't make me nervous about sight reading. I'm just trying to get through it.
and it's actually a frightful situation.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah.
But we've kind of worked through it over the years. And I mean, the thing is, I've improved my sight reading because of, that feedback and that type of thing. So now I think even more about what goes into sight reading. How can I sight read more musically every single time? Uh, so it's been really interesting, and it fits so much of my musical personality with this idea of wanting to put myself out there in a really realistic way so that people don't maybe feel quite as intimidated by the classical music world, that everything has to be perfect and that type of thing. And that we too as musicians have struggles. We have our things that we're not as good at, but that it's
Stage
still,
fright.
what was that?
Stage fright.
Yeah.
I'm I have I love to play concerts, but I'm so frightened and excited and yeah. And so I think it's so brave because it's already a challenge to play a concert when you are prepared.
Yeah.
But to sight read in front of an audience, I would not be so brave. So it's I really admire you for that.
Well, thank you. I mean, again, I just think I really wanted people to see that you can sight read musically.
Hmm.
That's my biggest goal, is to sight read musically. And I want people to see the value in being good at sight reading, and to
Hmm.
improve your sight reading is that you get to explore this music. And yeah, so it's been a joy, and I didn't know how long it would go on for. I don't know if you felt that way with your projects, but I just ended up falling in love, and I haven't stopped. So
Yes, it's so precious. And somehow, it sounds weird, but this pandemic, it pushed me because otherwise I would never have started something like that. And now it keeps going. Of course, not. Um, we have now our projects and concerts, of course, in real life, so it's not possible to do such a full-time job. But of course, I stick to it.
yes, absolutely.
Yes.
And it offered me, because I do it live and there's a chat box. Again, not a lot of people watch, but there's a lot of regulars, and they chit chat in the chat box. And during the pandemic, that was a way of providing a social life, as
Yes.
strange as it was. That
And also like in salons. So in earlier times, there were salons where people met. And of course, they were sight reading. Composers which read through the pieces that the colleague had written. Thinking of that, it's really missing nowadays.
That's so true. I hadn't thought of that aspect of it. It is sort of like a digitalized salon. And speaking of playing composers' music, I always invite composers to
Hmm.
send me pieces that they think are sight readable for piano
Ah.
to me. And if I think I can do a decent job, I do sight read it on the show. And for
Hmm.
some composers, it's not always easy to get their music performed. So for many of them, it's the first time they've ever heard it on an
Wow.
actual piano, you
Wow.
know? And that has been such a point of connection between us,
Hmm.
and a joy for me to be able to do that for them. So that's been fun too.
I have another question. So you're a good sight reader. There are many theories how to become a good sight reader. Do you think it's genetic, or did you practice? So you did a lot of sight reading and you improved, or do you have a special technique?
A little bit of everything. I mean, I don't know about the genetic thing, because I don't have a lot of musicians that I would look to. My mom was an amateur pianist,
Mhm.
but in connection with her, when I started playing piano when I was 5, she was taking piano lessons at the same time. And she made me play duets with her every single week, sometime during the week.
Sight
So,
reading.
yeah, sight
Okay.
reading
Hmm.
duets. And so, because your brain is so pliable at that young age, I
Hmm.
was learning to read music at the same time I was learning to read books. And so I have to think, because when I'm sight reading music, I am reading the music on the page like a language.
Hmm.
And I see that that is something that's lacking these days in a lot of people that are struggling to get better at sight reading, is that they are reading note by note,
Hmm.
especially for something as complex as piano music, where you've got a lot of notes horizontally but also vertically. It can make it almost impossible to sight read, first of all,
Hmm.
but then to sight read musically, it's almost doubly impossible. You have to have this horizontal way of reading music and processing music
Do
ahead.
you read ahead? I think of Liszt. They said he's always 8 bars ahead.
I don't know. I mean, I think it depends on the complexity of the piece, and it depends on
Uh-huh.
my day, the day.
Hmm.
But there are times that my best sight reading days, I can't even, like, I don't even feel I'm really staring at the page. Somehow,
Uh-huh.
it's like my brain takes a snapshot of many
Hmm.
measures, and it's referring back to all the different pieces I've played previously, and it's reading patterns. It's
Yes. Hmm.
and I'm guessing what's coming next a lot of the time.
Uh-huh.
And I just go forth and guess wrong if I need to, or The other thing that I think is not taught a lot with sight reading that I think is a little bit of a problem is that people are not taught to leave things out.
Yes.
There's this
Yes.
expectation when you sight read that you must read all of the notes. And that, I mean, maybe that's true for some people, that that's their expectation, but I question if it should be an expectation.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, what is the purpose of sight reading? It's to get to know a piece of music and to get to know a composer and their language at first sight.
Sort
That
of
relates,
overview.
yeah, and that relates to patterns
Mm-hmm.
because each composer has their patterns that they tend to come back to over and over again, and harmonic language. So, you know, if you're so caught up that you're trying to read all the notes, you're not going to be able to see those patterns. That's just
Yes.
my opinion, and I'm still trying to work out how to help people see that and improve that. So,
Mm-hmm.
but for me, because I think my mom, I didn't enjoy it most of the time when I was really, really young, but I'm grateful, you know? I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be who I was today as a musician,
Mm-hmm.
as a sight reader, had she not made me do that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
for people with children, for teachers, have them read duets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And not stick to one piece for half a year.
I mean, you can do that too, but I think there has to be also times where you have the student learn music quickly because
Mm-hmm.
that forces you to touch on some of these other skills
Mm-hmm.
that you use in sight reading,
Yes.
you know? Yeah.
I had the when I played the Liszt technical studies. Um, this was really interesting because my sight reading improved because I had this that you mentioned with this recognizing patterns. So when I was sight reading, then it was like, oh, you played this. This was this technical exercise by Liszt. It's this, and aha, this is this one. Is it in your head like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't
A
know
sort of Lego somehow, because it's like, a blue thing and a red thing and a yellow thing put
how,
together.
I don't know how in touch I am with that when I'm sight reading. But I do know that, like, I also hear, I don't know if you do this, but I can often, if it's a good day, hear what's coming in my head.
I cannot.
Ah, okay. And
I read that this should be like that, but I don't do it. I cannot.
I keep trying to improve that aspect for me. And like,
Uh-huh.
I was never good at music theory. I'm always, when I'm doing my shows now, trying to use theory. Like, I'm not good at labeling actual uh, terminology, but I try to think about the music in theory terms and in chords to try to help myself. So I'm trying to
Mhm.
get better at that myself during my show, through my show.
Wow. Oh, that's amazing. Great.
So,
You mentioned your mentor, and of course, I'm a little bit curious. So you said that he was watching, but when I understood your tweets right, you're also sending pieces to him that you
yes,
practice.
yes.
So tell us what is this
I will,
about?
and I can finally unveil. I don't think well, I've hinted at it over the past few months. But I talked to him last night and I said, "Can I mention your name now?" And he said, "Yes, of course." So
Oh.
it's a pianist that grew up in London, Nick Van Vlos,
Mhm.
and just a remarkable pianist. And he now lives in a different part of Europe. And he recorded his recording of the Goldberg Variations is one of my favorites.
Mhm.
He also has a recording of the Bach keyboard concertos
Mhm.
that he did in London. Just stunning. And I think I met him on Twitter and found out about him on Twitter like 12 years ago. And when I listened to his music, it was so refreshing to me. There was something about it. He has a very strong, unique voice. And his
Mhm.
Goldberg made me giggle when I listened to it in places because it was so full of life
Mhm.
and joy.
Mhm.
Anyway, so that's who it is. And we had corresponded just informally on Twitter for quite some time over the years. But then he also left social media for many years. But
Okay.
then right before the pandemic, I got back in touch with him. I was sort of concerned where he was. I didn't see him performing as much
Mhm.
anymore. So finally, I emailed him, and I finally got an email back. And so we're back in touch a little bit. I knew that for a while, I was live streaming my practice sessions years ago, and he would sometimes watch that, which I thought, he was one of my heroes musically as a
Yes.
pianist. And so when he would tell me he was watching me practice, I just about died. Anyway, then at the beginning of the pandemic, he messaged me, and he said he was preparing all the Well-Tempered Clavier to record them.
Mhm.
And he knew that I had learned all of Book 2. So he asked if I would be interested in meeting with him on Zoom or FaceTime or WhatsApp to go through the preludes and fugues together. And
Wow.
I mean,
That's great.
my jaw just dropped because, again, he was my piano hero. And
Yes.
I wrote back and I said, well, you do know who I am. You do know that I'm kind of not anybody special. I'm just me in Southwestern Virginia. Like, why? And he wrote back and he said, because of, I don't want to talk to an academic. I don't want to talk to another person that has necessarily recorded them and is set in their ways. I want to have discussion. So that's how it started, really. But
And then you did it. So you met week by week regularly, or did you pick pieces when he was ready, or how did you do this?
well, it was kind of a weird journey. Um, so, I mean, I'm trying to remember. I think because I realized this was a really unique opportunity, I had kind of put the Well-Tempered Clavier aside, but I decided that I would maybe start re-recording them and putting them on YouTube again.
Hmm.
And that's kind of when I asked him, could I just send you the videos and let's talk through them,
Uh-huh.
which he really seemed to want to do. He absolutely loves talking about music. I mean, and he is so incredibly insightful. One thing I will say about him, but I don't want to make a big deal out of it because, well, it's a complicated issue.
Mhm.
He has severe Tourette's, and he's lived with that most of his life. And that has affected various parts of his career. But when he is doing music, when he's talking about music, listening to music, it's like all of his energy goes there. And I think
He
that,
can control it?
mhm, yeah,
Really?
yeah. So when, I think that's, I started realizing that it was just as helpful for him to be helping me listen to my Bach, and to give me
Wow.
feedback because it gave him such a purpose and because he's so incredibly good at it. I mean, I can't express to you, and I told you he listens to the sight reading shows and he would give me feedback, which
Hmm.
sometimes he's very blunt sometimes, um, which was very intimidating at first. But when I realized he has this way of distilling what isn't going as well and it could be better into
Hmm.
just such simple terms
Hmm.
that's understandable and that you can apply almost instantly by just being aware that that's what you're doing or not doing.
Hmm.
So it has been like a mind-blowing journey for me because I feel as a pianist, I have completely changed how I see myself as a musician, how I learn music, how I perform music. It's been unbelievable. And recently, this last summer, he actually came to the United States and we met in
Oh.
person. And I he did a master class for some local, very young pianists. Well, one was a like teenager, and then one was a really young pianist. Because I was curious to see how he worked with really young musicians. Here's this person that plays on this amazing level. I wanted to see how he worked with students that
Hmm.
had only
Basics.
for a
Yes.
few years. But same thing, he is just so passionate he has such insight. He can look into a person's musical soul and say, here's what you need to do. Try this.
Hmm.
And then he worked at there was a camp for very talented high schoolers at the university where I work. And he did a talk there about creativity, a little bit about his life and career, and then did some master classes. And it was just beyond thrilling. So that's Nick Van Vlost.
Oh, that's great. You know, I love about this that especially you know how our musical territory is. So normally it's very competitive, and especially in the fields of pianists because they're all alone at their piano. So it's not always a very nice atmosphere. And I think it's so wonderful to have, yeah, actually colleagues. So to have colleagues who empower each other.
Yes.
So he gives you critics, but not to make you smaller, but to make you shine. This
Who
is
want the
so,
best for you. And,
yeah.
you know, I know he wants the best for musicians of all different levels. And that's how I am too. And
Mm-hmm.
so we share that absolute passion that music should not only be accessible or pursued by those that are the most gifted.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's great too when that happens. Of course, I would
Yes.
never not want to work with a young musician that shows just abnormally high potential. But I think even the amateur, even the young student, there's something in each one of them that you can bring
Mm-hmm.
out. And that's what's a joy to do. And he enjoys doing that too. So I'm hoping that he'll get to do that more and more as time goes on. So we'll see.
That's really beautiful. Oh, I love this. Such a nice story. So what's on my list? Da, 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 da. Yeah, we're nearly at the end. So your favorite composers? It's a hard question, I know, but maybe you have some. And of course, some recommendations for everyone who's watching, maybe easy, medium, and difficult level.
We'll see if I can do that as organized as you requested. Let's see.
Oh no, I remember we're not at the end. I'm sorry. Your trio. We wanted to talk about your
Oh,
trio.
do you want to talk about that first?
Yeah, let's put this in and then in the
Okay.
end your recommendations.
Okay. Sure. So I don't know. I mean, it's just interesting how everything aligns, right? So I had never played music by women before, but now I am a co-founder of Piano Music She Wrote, and also with two colleagues here in Roanoke, a clarinet player and a flute player. We started a trio about the same time called the Alma Ensemble, named after Alma Mahler. Um, and our goal was to make classical music concerts more accessible. We wanted to attract people from different backgrounds to our performances, to have it be a more social, like a salon setting. And we also wanted to use it as an opportunity to research and highlight music composed by women for our combinations. And also another arm of that is that we wanted to we commission women that are living, obviously, to write us music
Mhm.
because we were noticing, especially at that time, that a lot of women composers, because it's harder to find opportunities sometimes to get their music performed, they would be willing to like write a piece without earning any money. And we said,
Mhm.
no. If you write us a piece, you will be paid fairly, you know. So that's our group, and we've been around for 3 years. And I think one of the benefits of living in a small town such as we do is that our audiences, they don't have any expectations. They don't
Mhm.
come to our performances necessarily thinking that they only want to hear Beethoven, Brahms, and Bach. So they just accept all the music that we can give them and they enjoy all of it. And that has been a beautiful thing. But we
Mhm.
also share these stories of these undiscovered women composers, and they love that too. Um, So it's been a really great experience there too.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
Do you also play something like what is the what are the musicians? Flute and
it's flute and clarinet and piano.
okay. Is there something from historical composers for this?
Um, yes. Well, let's see. We have done some arrangements. I'm trying to think of strictly.
Ah,
Uh, wow. Okay, I should know this. We play a piece by Mel Bonis, but I think that was actually written for a different combination.
I know this for flute and horn and piano.
Yes, I
This
think that,
one,
yes, it's the suite en trio,
I
I
thought
think.
it's something with forests. Is it not the
Oh,
forest scene or something?
we're getting ready to perform that too.
Oh wow, I love this piece.
Yeah. Um, we've done a lot more contemporary pieces
Uh-huh.
than historical. Why am I blanking? I'm so embarrassed.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
No, it's okay. So we actually just performed a piece by Ethel Smythe that was also
Oh,
not written for our combination.
Hey Nonny, no, right?
Variations on Bonnie Sweet Robin, actually.
Oh yeah, I listened to this in the Gewandhaus in Leipzig. They played it. It's
Yeah,
for flute, oboe, and piano. Yeah.
yes. So we just transcribed the oboe part for clarinet, and I think
Yes.
it works really, really well. What
Hmm.
a fantastic piece! I don't know how you felt about it, but
Yeah, I
um,
liked it.
yeah, it was really interesting. So we did that, but I'm not remembering any of the other ones, but
Yeah, it's no problem. I was just a little bit curious
oh, you
because
know,
you know that my main domain is historical composers, and
yeah,
so of course I'm always trying to get some information because I just sometimes you come across a new composer when you ask such questions.
yeah, no, there aren't as many historical composers, unfortunately, but we do like a set by Taille Fair that
Uh-huh.
that doesn't have anything that combines all of us, but we do like a flute piano piece, clarinet piano, and I do a solo piano piece. Uh,
Ah, okay, great.
we're still looking, we're still looking.
So if anyone is watching and has yeah, some
Absolutely,
repertoire, he
please.
can just write you. Okay, that's great. And I think, but now it's time for the recommendations.
Okay. All right, let's see. I mean, it's so hard because here's the thing. Every piece that I end up putting on Piano Music She Wrote, for the most part, are pieces that I end up falling in love with.
Hmm.
So it makes it a
I
big,
feel you.
yeah, it makes it a big challenge because I think as a performer, I just believe that the more you get to know a piece, how can you not love it? You know?
Yes.
So, but let's see. So one of the pieces I've actually performed quite a bit too is by Josephine Auernhammer.
Hmm.
Um, she, oh, let's see. She actually used to play piano with Mozart. They played like two piano concertos together. But she wrote a set of variations that I just love. She's actually
Hmm.
wrote several, but she wrote a set on Papageno's aria from Magic Flute. Fantastic set of variations. So incredibly clever. It's sort of, I would say, late intermediate, early advanced.
Hmm.
Um, but you because that theme, has the little glockenspiel part where that Papageno plays. Um, and at that point in each variation, she does something different
Ah,
that's really clever. So I don't want to give
hmm.
it away. You'll just have to go look at the score. But
Yes.
it's really clever. And there's this sort of operatic slow minor variation that I just love. So
Hmm.
that's good. Um, there's a piece by a composer that's alive that's not really a composer. She's not really composing much. She's the aunt of a composer. It's Olga
Oh.
Nazaikinskaya. And she wrote a set of aquarelles. And she also wrote a piece called Espérance that is just gorgeous and so accessible. I think teenage pianists would really love to play it.
Hmm.
I'd say probably intermediate level. Some of the aquarelles, it's a variety of levels, but it's fantastic writing. And I've performed all of those multiple times. And what I was going to say is, so she's not really a composer. So when I contacted her to ask her if I could put it up on the channel, she was like, she couldn't believe it. She said, I never expected anybody would ever perform it.
Wow.
And I said, well, it's really a great piece.
Mhm.
And at one of my performances, there was a conductor in the audience, and he asked me, he said, who is this composer? It's absolutely gorgeous writing. And I told him, and he just said, oh my goodness, you know.
But how did she learn to compose?
She did, I think, go to a music school, but she just
Oh,
doesn't do it anymore. So
okay. Oh,
I don't know.
what a story.
Music on IMSLP, you know.
Uh-huh.
At first, it was just the aquarels on IMSLP, but then after I recorded aquarels and she got such good feedback,
Hmm.
she then said, well, I have another piece that I wrote when I was a teenager. Should I put that up? And I said, yes, you
Wow.
should. So that's Esperance that she put up that I love too. So um, let's see. There's a set of pieces with a very whimsical name called Cobweb Castle by Liza Lehman. Some of the pieces are better than others. The last one has all these glissandos in it, and so you have to be very careful if you do all these glissandos. But
Hmm.
there's a piece in there called Even Song. I would say like intermediate level, absolutely gorgeous. It's very chorale-like. Would be great to work on voicing because
Hmm.
it's a little bit repetitive. So it offers the opportunity to voice it a little bit differently each time. So I think pedagogically, that's very interesting to me, you know, like, and that would be a good quick learn piece,
Hmm.
but to do it musically. So there's that. Um, oh, uh, I hate pronouncing things. Hedwiga Chrétien.
Ah,
Um,
Edwige Chrétien.
Thank you.
Yes.
She wrote three sonatinas that I think are great. Other good teaching pieces in addition to that. Marguerite Baluté,
Yes.
tons of great learning pieces that fit well in the hand, that are doable, you know?
Hmm.
So a student could learn them and really refine them and learn so much in the refining process. That's take a little side journey here. I think that's one thing I have about a lot of young pianists learning, you know, Scarlatti sonatas, Beethoven sonatas, even some Mozart. Sometimes I feel like they're so difficult, even though
Hmm.
they might be subtly difficult, that students perhaps just because it's so difficult to play technically, they might be neglecting how much they could learn and refine their musicianship because they're just trying to get through learning the notes and playing the notes.
Mm.
So with some of these women composers, Baluté, Chrétien, I feel like it's more possible for them, you know, to really refine their playing and learn a lot in the process. Which reminds me of Mel Bonis. She wrote
Hmm.
also a lot of good pieces. And here's the thing I feel with her music, especially. They make great exercises and opportunities for students to figure out how to put fingerings in their music themselves.
Hmm.
Because her music is written in hand positions, you know, and that's how like I think of piano playing.
Hmm.
You keep your hands in these positions, you have expanded and then you have closed, and that really guides what fingering you use,
Hmm.
you know. So there aren't that many surprises in Mel Bonis's music. It
Oh.
all works well. So if you wanted to give a good piece for a student and say, why don't you choose your own fingering this time around? And then let's work through it together and
Hmm.
talk about why different fingerings work better than others. Um, I can't remember the name of it. There's one piece in particular, it's about rain. And that one's a really good one for that
Hmm.
purpose. But that's probably more like a early advanced piece, but really good exercise. And a great piece.
Yes, I
Yeah,
heard it.
yeah. Who else am I leaving out? Oh, there's a Polish composer, Lopuska.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
happy that you mentioned her. I'm a
Yeah,
big fan.
I think you kind of helped us find information about her, didn't you?
Yes, I sent you the biography.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
where is this sonata? I would so love to get my hands on this sonata. And also she won a prize with her ballad for piano and orchestra. There was a composers competition at her time at Warsaw, and she won. So this piece must be wonderful, and it's gone. I can't believe it. It must be somewhere. I, I'm it cannot be gone.
I wonder, I mean, you would think that the school that gave that award and had that competition would have it. I would hope.
I don't know. I mean, of course, in Poland it was always a country, yeah, hurt by war,
Right.
of course. But when you think of this piece, there must be orchestra material, and she certainly didn't give them her manuscript. So,
That's so frustrating.
and what about her sonata? I mean, she was teaching. She was in the end of her life. She was teaching in Russia. So I think she was first in Poland. She was in Leipzig. So she came from Poland to Leipzig, and then she returned to Poland in Warsaw, and then I think she was with her husband moving somewhere. I don't remember where. And after this, they moved to Russia. So there were some countries, and usually you have contacts, you have social contacts, and you offer them your scores.
Right.
And I mean, when you look at Opus 6, her question, it's printed.
Yeah.
So when things are printed in Opus 6, it must be an early work.
True. True, true, true.
So what about the late works? I cannot believe that they weren't printed. Because it's weird. You have your first works printed and your later works not.
Yeah, that doesn't.
No way, no way. I don't believe it.
Yeah. Well,
I'm pretty convinced it must be somewhere.
So again, if anybody's watching and happens to know.
Yeah. All the Polish people look up in your. Must be somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. But so much, I mean, there's just so much good music, truly. And
so what's your favorite from Łopuska? It's Opus 6 or
oh, I'm terrible at opus numbers. I think there's
so question, it's question.
I didn't do that one. I think Sandra might have recorded that one. I did two
Okay.
other ones. And I'm not remembering their names because again, I'm terrible with remembering.
Yeah, I saw one that you recorded. It's this a day in April or something, or a day in May. Un jour printanier, or un jour printanier, something like
Could
this.
be. There's a
Spring song or something.
There's a song too that I did of hers.
Yes.
Oh yeah, the one you're thinking of is really fast. It was hard.
With this F sharp all the time in the left hand. I remember.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful piece. I don't remember the name, but it's with this F sharp, I think, in the left hand all the time. Ostinato.
Yep. But yeah, her music is just beautiful. I just wish there was more of it available.
Yes.
So, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot.
When we ever find this music, Erica, this will be such a party.
I know. Well, and I just hope, I mean, I hope people I think even over the course of the last 2 years, more and more people are on the same pursuit, which makes me so happy. And I'm grateful that so many of us are interested in collaborating and working and sharing and not just keeping it to ourselves. That's so important at this stage of the game, to help one another out as you have with us so many times. And the archive has also helped us out, tracking things down. So I hope that it just keeps getting better and better, and that, like, I've had a few family members of composers contact us and say, if you're ever down in Florida, come and look at the music that's in the archives at such and such a library. So as word gets out, I think connections will be made and more will be possible. So let's hope that it can.
Yes, and it's all about this accessibility you talked about. I
Yes.
think we all have the same goal. We want to make to share this music and to encourage everyone to play it.
You know, and I would say that that is one area that I do think is still a little tricky. I think it's still difficult for
Hmm.
people that can't invest a lot of money into purchasing scores from Europe. Like for me to purchase scores where a lot of them are actually only available in Europe, it's not doable. And that concerns me. Um, so you have IMSLP, but that's limited as well. So like I
But
just
Hansel Pushers is also great, I
Pencil
think.
pushers, thank you for mentioning them. Yes. Um, and like I know there's another website that has taken all of her voice, her
Yes.
songs. I mean, there's things happening, but we just need more of it. There's an
Hmm.
app that I just discovered. It's spelled NKODA, and
Hmm.
they are like a digital library that you use on your iPad or on your laptop, I guess. But
Hmm.
they have a lot of music publishers. They have deals with a lot of music publishers that happen to publish a lot of women composers like
Hmm.
Maya Fair, Ferenc. Uh, I don't remember some of the other ones, but
Hmm.
those publishers are part of this group. So if you pay for access to the app, you can get all of this music on your
Hmm.
iPad. So that's good, but I wish that they could promote themselves specifically for doing that,
Hmm.
so that it was easier for people to know that they're doing that. I don't know.
Yes, exactly.
So there's more work to be done, I guess is what I'm trying to say, to make
Yeah.
it more accessible and to not make it so difficult to find the stuff. So
Yes.
yeah,
I totally agree.
yeah.
But I think it's getting better, better
I,
and better.
I mean, even the number of anthologies that have been being put together for all instruments of music written by women or underrepresented composers, that's happening more and more and more. And I think that's fantastic. So
And also well, I call them the big publishers. They take music by women into their, yeah, well, their repertoire, which is a good thing. I mean, there are some specialized editions like Hildegard Publishing or Furore in Germany, but it's important also that the big players, I think, that they start to yeah, put it into their repertoire.
yes, absolutely.
And one thing which is really wonderful, I think, is we also need the big names to play those works. And so I was really happy to see Ann-Sophie Mutter performing Clara Schumann. And I was talking with a pianist lately on Instagram, and we said it would be so great to have Martha Argerich play Fanny Hensel the Year. This would be so fantastic. So
It
if
would be.
anyone has contacts to Martha Argerich, please tell her. I would buy it immediately. I think all of us.
Yeah,
Hopla.
absolutely. So, I think keep pushing in that direction as well and trying to get some of those bigger name performers out there doing that. I think that could only
Because
benefit.
it's the big picture, you know? I mean, we are small little musicians. We're important, but of course we're small and little, and it's okay. But also we need the, yeah, very famous people.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been very encouraged because I think just because the university where I work knows about my work with the Piano Music She Wrote project
Hmm.
and our trio, I have noticed that more and more of the students and teachers are assigning pieces written by women more. Um,
Oh,
and the students, I would say I'm playing a handful of them right now with the kids. And that in itself is powerful, right? Because then a lot of these kids are going to become educators. So I
yes.
see that the ball is starting to roll. So we just have to keep, pushing that ball and making it a good environment to keep nurturing it.
Let's keep it going.
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
yeah.
Ah, okay, Erica, so great. So we're at the end. Thanks so, so much for this wonderful talk. Now you're the host, so please share the video
I
save
will.
it and share it. And I think you can make me a co-author, and then I hopefully will be able to share it also in my timeline on Instagram. And yeah, let's try it out if this works.
We'll try it out. I might have to contact you to get some hand holding as I figure that out, but I will.
Fantastic.
Good. So
Thanks so much.
you're welcome. Thanks.
Goodbye.
Bye.